Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about using variables and evaluating. So to begin, we're going to go through some vocabulary real quickly. The first one is, what is a variable? So a variable is just a symbol, usually a letter, that represents a number. I'm going to just use the hashtag there for number. Now we've already defined algebraic expression when we did order of operations. We also have equations. So an equation is a math sentence that uses an equal sign. So part of the word equation almost looks like the word equal. So we've got that EQUA there. So equation means that there is an equal sign there. And when it tells you to evaluate, it wants you to replace the variables with numbers and solve. So the first example is writing an algebraic expression given an English sentence. So this is where your words into math page in your iPod is going to be useful. So what the words into math page gives you is it gives you different terminology for different math operations. So it's all the different words that you may see in an English sentence or in a word problem that represent addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, equals, parentheses, things like that. So as we go through our examples, I'm going to be referring back to the words into math. So example 1, letter A, says 8 plus a number. So what I like to do here is I like to identify the different pieces of information that I have here. So it starts with the number 8. Well, how do you write the number 8 in math language? Should be pretty easy. You just write the number 8. Right, plus. So I'm going to put a box around that because that right there tells me that I'm talking about a math operation. So if I look back at my words into math and I go through everything, where do I see the word plus? If you're looking at it, you should see it under the addition. So plus means that I should have an addition symbol. And then it says a number. Well, if it's talking about a number, it's just talking about some random number. It could be anything. It could be something that changes. So this we would use a variable for. So what I want to do is I want to pick a letter that represents this number. Since it said a number, I'm going to use the letter N. N for number. You could use X, you can use Y, you can use whatever letter you want. I'm going to use N. That's my algebraic expression, 8 plus N. So if I go to letter B, I'm going to do the same thing. So I've got 7, that's just the number 7, less than, that's going to be an operation, in. So I've got a 7 and an in, and I'm looking at less than. So I go back to my words into math, and I find less than. And you will see that less than falls under the turnaround words. So what that means is, right now the 7 comes before the in. But since I'm using less than, I want to switch those two around. So I want to write the in first, and then I want to write the 7. Now less than, if you think about something being less or smaller, that's going to be subtraction. So n minus 7, not 7 minus n. In letter C, I've got 2 times the sum of n and 5. So we've got the number 2 times. Now here's where you have to be careful, because what are you timesing by? You're timesing by the sum of n and 5. So if I look back into my words into math, this is actually going to fall under the parentheses words. I don't see that exact phrase under the parentheses words, but I see things that look really similar to it. So I'm going to do 2 times the sum. So that means that the sum has to be in parentheses, and sum, if I look back in Words Into Math, that's addition. So I'm summing n and 5, so n plus 5. Now example 2, we're just going the opposite direction. So example 2, there's actually lots of different possible answers that you could have for this. So letter A, I've got 15 minus W. So what I want to do is I want to pick some type of English word for this subtraction symbol. So if I go look at my Words Into Math, what might be another word that I use for that subtraction symbol? Maybe we use minus. I actually already said that. So I could say 15 minus W. Another word for subtraction is decreased by. So 15 decreased by W. That would be another acceptable answer. You might have another possibility. The point is that there are multiple right answers for these types of problems. Now, since this is a subtraction, I could use the less than. I would just have to make sure that, again, I turn it around. So I wouldn't say 15 less than W. I would say W less than 15. All right, for letter B, so I look, I've got K over 7, which is K divided by 7. So I'm looking at division. So I go to my Words Into Math and I see, okay, what are the different words that I could use for division? I could say K divided by 7. Or I could use quotient. So the quotient of K and 7. Now example 3 is very similar, but it says that we're going to write an equation. Letter A says the total cost is $12 times the number of CDs bought. So we've got the total cost, and then I see this word is here. If you look back on your Words Into Math, the word is on there really, really big, and it's under equals. So I know that where that is, there's going to be an equal sign. And then we've got 12 times the number of CDs bought. Now my total cost and my number of CDs bought, I need to come up with a letter that represents those, because I don't want to write total cost equals 12 times the number of CDs bought. I want to make this smaller. So what might be a really good letter to represent total cost? Maybe you want to use the letter T or the letter C. So T for total, C for cost. I'm going to use T. So that's my total cost that was equals 12 times the number of CDs bought. So maybe I use C for CDs. So T equals 12C. Total cost equals 12 times the number of CDs. Now, you can put the multiplication symbol in between 12 and C, but you're usually not going to see it written that way. You'll just see the 12 and the C next to each other, and that means that they're being multiplied. All right, the last thing that we're going to talk about is evaluating. So if we look back up at our definition that says we're going to replace the variables with numbers and solve. So we want to evaluate 2 times 4x plus y for x equals 3 and y equals negative 2. So what this means is everywhere I see an x, I want to plug in a 3 because it's telling me x is equal to 3. If it told me that x was equal to hippopotamus, then I would plug in hippopotamus. But it's telling me it's equal to 3, so I want to plug in 3 for x, and I want to plug in negative 2 for y. Now before I do any evaluating, I am going to rewrite my original expression, and everywhere there's a letter, I'm going to put a set of parentheses. So I've got 2 parentheses 4, and then instead of the letter x, I'm going to write a parentheses, plus, and instead of the letter y, I'm going to put another set of parentheses, and then close the parentheses. All right, so we've got 4 times x in the original, and it tells me right here that x is equal to 3, so that's what I'm going to plug into my first parentheses. And then in my second parentheses, that was a plus y, and it tells me y is equal to -2, so that will go in my second set of parentheses. So now I've plugged in all my numbers, so from here, it's just a matter of using my order of operations. So I do what's in the parentheses first. So that's 4 times 3 plus -2. So that's 2 times 4 times 3 is 12, because I'll do my multiplication inside my parentheses first. And then I've got 12 plus -2, which is 10. And then 2 times 10 is equal to 20. So again, whenever it's telling you to evaluate, it wants you to give an actual answer. And then if you remember from your order of operations, you can also put this in your calculator. Go the right way here. This is another reason why we encourage you to put the parentheses when you're substituting, so that when you type it in your calculator, you don't mess up any of the order of operations, or you don't get any negatives in a crazy spot. So I can take this first written line here and type it in my calculator exactly like I see it, parentheses and all. And there's my answer, 20. So I know I've got the right answer. All right, and that's it. Thanks.